Thank you. Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Rachel and this is my Genius Hour project on how traveling changes your life. There is no greater feeling than having your bags packed and knowing you're ready to go on your next adventure. Something happens to us when we board a plane in one country and land in another. It's almost as if our eyes open again for the first time. The excitement and life experiences that happen when you travel are unlike anything else. Ever since I was little, I loved to travel. Something about going to an unknown place made me curious and eager to explore. When I was growing up, I was fortunate enough to frequently travel with my family. We had traveled to places like Puerto Rico, Sweden, and the Caribbean. However, I always had a desire to see more of my own country. Last year, when my little sister moved to Vancouver, I was extremely excited for her, but at the same time I was sad. This would be the farthest apart we had ever been. I FaceTimed her here and there, but it just wasn't the same. So, for my Genius Hour project, I decided to travel across Canada to go somewhere I had never been and finally get to see my sister. For those of you who are overwhelmed with planning a trip, trust me when I say that if I could do it, you can too. To help you out with your next flight, I came up with 7 easy planning steps. Number 1, flights. When planning my trip, the first thing I did was look up flights. I recommend that you start looking early and at a time when flying is not too expensive. So usually flights are the most expensive during holidays and the winter months. Also start to compare airlines. Cheaper is not always better. Take into consideration travel time, the number of connecting flights, time of departure and arrival, the airline's reputation itself, and which airport the flight leaves from. This part of my Genius Hour research involved a lot of decision making and critical thinking. Number 2, create a rough itinerary. I made a Word doc of attractions, transportation costs, and restaurants I wanted to go to. This way, all of the information was organized, easily accessible, and I could simply email it to my friend and sister, and then they could make changes to it. Number 3, make use of your resources. Read travel books, search the internet, download the Google Maps app, and talk to people you know who have traveled to that place before. The travel book that I used was Fodor's Travel for Vancouver and Victoria. Number 4, establish a budget and keep track of expenses so that when you return home you're not surprised by your bill. Number 5, check the weather and be prepared for anything. I couldn't say this enough. One of my biggest regrets is underestimating how cold it would be in downtown Vancouver. So don't make the same mistake that I did. Layering is definitely the best solution. Number 6, research local transportation. In Vancouver, it was extremely easy to get around. After looking through my handy-dandy travel book, I learned that Vancouver had a Compass card, which you can simply load onto your phone and then use for the city bus, the train, and the sea bus. Number 7, find a travel buddy. Traveling becomes a lot easier when you have a sidekick that you can count on. I'm sure there's students out there that would kill for a break from school. So get in contact with friends you're close with or have traveled with before and arrange to go together. Or if you're traveling alone, find ways of meeting up with people who might be rolling solo too. The excitement and life experiences that happen when you travel are unlike anything else. These moments are transformative. They take us out of our element and remind us that life is too short. So here are some reasons why you should start to plan your next trip. One of the main reasons why employers are so interested in travelers, outside the fact that they are guaranteed to get free travel tips, is the life skills travelers and freelancers develop when they're abroad, such as punctuality, time management, patience, flexibility, and adaptability. So who here has ever had a time when their flight was delayed or canceled, they couldn't find their passport, or they lost their luggage? Probably the vast majority of you. Can you recall how frustrating that moment was? Now think about the moment when you realized that it wasn't the end of the world, and you just decided to take a deep breath and deal with it. I definitely had my fair share of frustrating moments during my journey. For example, the 3rd day that I was in Vancouver, me and my friend had planned to spend our day ziplining and hiking at Grouse Mountain. We had carefully planned everything. We knew how long it would take to get there, we figured out which buses to take, and we purchased our tickets online in advance. What could possibly go wrong? Well, the next day we confidently skipped the line and flashed our digital e-tickets only to realize that we had accidentally bought the tickets for the wrong day. When things don't go to plan, I learned how to think on my feet and come up with creative solutions. So even though it might have been frustrating in the moment, now me and my friend just look back on days that didn't go as planned and laugh. I think those are the moments that made our trip even more memorable. More importantly, the problem-solving skills that you gain from these experiences can transfer to other aspects of your life, and you'll definitely want to hold on to them. Nothing changes the way you view your own life experience like seeing the way other people live. Not only will you be more appreciative and thankful for the life that you have, you'll also have a new sense of wonder and empathy for other cultures. Immersing myself in Vancouver culture definitely changed my own perspective. I never given much thought as to how different their way of life was in comparison to my way of life here in Ontario. I guess I always just assumed that it would be similar, but with more picturesque views and warmer weather. Once I arrived, I immediately noticed similarities and differences. One being how much they value Indigenous cultures and the environment. Even as I was exiting the airport, I was surrounded by Indigenous artwork. I also noticed a lot of homelessness as I walked down the busy streets, which also opened my eyes to the increasing problem of homelessness in our own country. My Genius Hour project also taught me to live in the moment and make the most of it. There's no greater feeling than finally seeing spots that you've only read about. Grouse Mountain, the Sky Pilot Suspension Bridge, and the Stanley Park Seawall were places I had only read about and always dreamt of. So when I saw them for the first time, I just wanted to stop and take in all the beauty. For some people, it's their worst fear to go on an airplane or have to navigate a place on their own. At first, I was scared to travel alone to a place I'd never been to before. However, I'm glad that I stepped out of my comfort zone because it helped me discover what I'm truly capable of. My Genius project also taught me to value experiences over things. Ziplining at the top of Grouse Mountain and riding my bike along the Stanley Park Seawall outvalued any merchandise I could ever possibly purchase. Instead of buying a luxurious car, try investing in yourself and in the world around you. Now think about this for a second. Commercial flying wasn't accessible until the last 50 years or so. Travel used to be a huge luxury, and the average person barely knew their own country. We are the first generation to have the ability to move anywhere in the world in under 24 hours. That's amazing. And now, I know what you're probably all thinking. Rachel, how do you expect us to afford these trips? We're students, for goodness sake. Well, I live that student life too, and all I have to say is, I know you probably spend $5 a day on Tim Hortons coffee and $50 at the bar on weekends. So it's time for you to turn your coffee fund into a travel fund. Overall, I believe that travel brings us together as a global community. It helps us realize that although everyone is unique, we are also very similar. It's very important for our generation to discover the world and experience different cultures. We should all make a conscious effort to learn about other people outside of our friend circles. Imagine a world where everyone's empathetic and loving to each other. I'd like to end my talk with a quote from Mark Twain. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. Now get out there and start discovering this amazing planet we call home. It'll be the best investment you'll ever make. Thank you.